and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. I'm so stoked about the show tonight. Great show. You're going to love this guest. But before we start, I'd love to tell you about one of our sponsors, Balance of Nature. If you know anything about me, you know how seriously I take my health. In fact, the older I get, the goal of staying my healthiest and in my best shape takes on more and more importance for me. Feeling good is something that I don't take for granted, and I know you don't either. It's become an essential goal for me every single day. That means there's specific things that I need to do to make sure that I'm feeling my absolute best. One of those is remembering to take Balance of Nature supplements. It's hard to know what to choose with so many products out there. It's impossible to know that you've made the right choice, but it is not with Balance of Nature. I know that everything I take is made from whole food ingredients, just the way it should be. If getting more serious about your health is something you've been wanting to commit to, I highly recommend you check out Balance of Nature. You can order them directly at www.balanceofnature.com and make sure you use promo code LARA, that's LARA, to get 35% off of your order. Hold on to your hats. We've got a big one tonight. We are joined by country music star. You know him. I know you know his songs. He's got an Off the Rails tour that starts February 9th. Brantley Gilbert. Brantley, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your bravery to join me this evening. No, I'm just kidding. You're awesome. First of all, just like what a cool guy. I think your music is so great. My kids love looking at all of them when I play your songs in my car. Their favorite thing is they're always like, turn on so we can see like the little picture, because they're always like, oh, this one's different. That one's different. You're great. And we appreciate all of the things that you do out there. I got to ask you though, Brantley, is that your given name? That's your like actual name? Because that's an interesting one. Never heard it.
It is. It is. I'm not real sure where it came from. I only know one other guy that has my name, and he called me a few years ago and told me that our namesake had passed away. And I asked my parents, and I was like, "Who did y'all name me after?" And they were like, "It definitely wasn't that guy." So I don't really know where it came from. I've never really got the whole story there.
All right. Well, it's unique. I'm sure having a bit of a unique name has probably helped you in some capacity in your life. But obviously, you're a country music star. How does a 13-year-old teenage boy start writing music? Because I understand that's kind of where it all started for you. I'm 41 years old, Brantley. I know you're catching up soon. I think this is your last year in your 30s. So come on over to the 40s. It's a good time. And I just started kind of getting into music myself. So you've got a bit of a jump on me. How did it start for you at 13?
You know, I wish I could tell you. My mom says that I used to put on shows for an audience of one in the mirror with like a little plastic guitar and a plastic microphone. And I couldn't tell you if any of that was true. I can tell you that my mom's worked 2 jobs at a church my entire life, for as long as I can remember. And she doesn't cuss. She doesn't drink. So I got a feeling she probably doesn't lie much either. So there's probably some truth to it. But you know, I kind of came up playing in church, and you know, around the age somewhere between 13 and 15, I found out what bikers were, and you know, it was the first time that I really saw like the power of music. I came up playing ball and stuff, and I remember I was at a motorcycle clubhouse one night playing to some guys, and you know, one of the guys in there teared up a little bit, and it was kind of confusing to me, and you know, he explained to me what the song "Prodigal Son" meant to him, and it was the first time I'd seen music bridge a cultural gap like that. You know, so it was just kind of it was a powerful moment. But for whatever reason, coming up, I wasn't big on playing other people's songs. If I learned them, it was more or less to play some covers, you know, at shows, and it was also to kind of learn some chords on the guitar. I kind of taught myself that as well. So it's been a big learning process between 13 and 39.
Yeah. There's a lot in between there. Believe me, I join you in that. I understand how that goes. it sometimes I think people think about having a career in something like music. And for so many people, it's kind of like that's a dream, but that'll never be a reality. I never want to focus too much time on it because, I've got to pay the bills and whatnot. You were actually in a near fatal car accident at around 19. And I mean, obviously, God saved you, you survived. And I understand that's when you decided to ultimately say, like, music is going to be my career. This is what I'm going to focus on. Did you plan on it before that, or was that car accident kind of the catalyst that drove you to say, like, I really am going to make music what I do for a living?
Well, believe it or not, that wreck kind of knocked some things a little blurry. So my memory before it is a little hazy at best. But
Wow.
from what I understand, and I do remember being kind of dead set on it. And, I talked to a high school counselor of mine from way back in the day, and she said that, my parents were really, really concerned about having a plan B and a plan C. And I think, I remember saying, after the wreck happened that it taught me all of this and that and the other. But to be honest with you, at 39, I don't remember what exactly it taught me outside of, man, I'm here for a reason. And, I do believe that with my whole heart. So,
Yeah.
but I think it did give me an excuse. It was like, okay, well, all the boats are sank. So, plan B and C, we're going to toss those to the side and just sink all the boats and go for it.
Wow. Well, you're lucky it worked out for you. And obviously it has worked out for you. What was the moment you kind of knew, like, oh, I'm going to make it doing this? Like, this is ultimately going to be it for me. And like there had to be some moment on stage or recording a song or releasing a song or something that you really felt like you'd made it.
You know what? I tell people this all the time. I don't know that I've ever been a stop to smell the roses type guy. We kind of came up the old school way. And I think one of the reasons that we've been successful outside of the fact that, I'm surrounded by an incredible group of dudes that spent the last 20 years helping me build something that's something I truly believe is special and different. But yeah, I can't say there's ever been a moment where I've kind of stood on top of the hill and been like, I'm still kind of waiting on that moment.
You're still going up the hill. By the way, I know another guy who kind of acts like that. His name is Donald Trump. Just throwing it out there. I like that attitude, by the way. I think that's great because, you're always looking for the next thing, the next win, the next hit, the next whatever it is. And you stay hungry and it keeps you motivated to keep doing what you do. And obviously it's working for you. Not only do you have this incredible music career, but I can also see you have a beautiful family. How old are your kids, by the way?
Oh, they're 4 and 6.
Yeah, here's what I noticed. I went on your Instagram, I went on your wife's Instagram, and you guys have never shown your kids' faces from what I can see. Is that right?
Yes, man. For the most part, there's been a couple of times it's kind of slipped out.
Why did you? I mean, because Eric and I thought about doing that too. And by the way, my kids are the exact same age, and I said I have to ask Brantley how old his kids are because looking at it, I'm like, it looks like they're 4 and 6. My daughter's 4, and my son is 6, and it's like the most fun thing in the whole world, right? Like to have kids that age and all of it. It's the greatest.
Just to be a parent is the coolest thing I've ever done. And I got to be honest though, my wife is the rock star on that end of things. She truly is. I couldn't have asked for a better mother for my kids. She's over the top. She's super mom. You know what I mean? She's not like a helicopter mom, but she actually just started a school. It's like a micro school, kind of a homeschool school type thing. This year, some of the things that were being taught in schools, we weren't necessarily crazy about. We were also a little concerned about, their safety and how it's, it's easier to get in the school these days than it is to get on an airplane.
Right.
So we kind of brought some things in house, and she has lots of families in our community that were on the same page. And, so she's running the school right now on top of being, a rock star mom. So
by the way, that's amazing. And there are a lot of people who have done that sort of thing. And I commend all of the parents out there, anyone who homeschools your kids. First of all, fantastic. I mean, 100% what your kids are being taught if you are homeschooling them, but then doing kind of like these smaller little groups of kids and kind of a homeschool situation. That's a lot, though. That's a lot of work. And I think that we've seen a lot more of that happening. So it's interesting that you guys do that. But the fact that you've kind of kept your kids really out of the limelight. I mean, I know that whenever our kids were born, Eric and I kind of thought about it, and it's hard to do too, because as a parent, right, you want to show your kids off and like show the things they do. But that's kind of a great decision, because then one day they grow up and they can decide ultimately if they want people to know who they are.
Yeah, for sure. For us, it wasn't necessarily, Amber and I never sat down and said there's, the parents that, or the parents that have, a platform that post their kids. We never sat down and said what they're doing is wrong. We just didn't necessarily know how we felt about it one way or the other. There were pros and cons on both sides, and I think it's just one of those things that it's the wrong thing to be wrong about. What is social media going to be in 20 years? Is this the equivalent, is posting our kids the equivalent of your grandmother, you bringing your girlfriend over to meet your grandmother and her showing her naked pictures of you in the bathtub? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
So social media is, to me, effectively turned the entire world into a small town. And we wanted them to have the opportunity to tell their story, independently when it's time to do so. But again, I don't, anybody that does post their kids, I don't want anybody to get the idea that we think they're doing something wrong. That's not the case at all. We just didn't know, and it was the wrong thing to be wrong about.
I hear that. I hear it. I give you a lot of credit for doing that, because actually I remember right after my son was born, my father-in-law was like, you know what? I feel like maybe you guys shouldn't post so many pictures of him. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, this is the grandson of the president of the United States. Because both of my kids, by the way, were born while my father-in-law was in office, which is a very unique thing to have happen. Obviously, a lot of attention on that. And Eric and I were like, you know what? People are going to see him anyway. They're ultimately going to know what he looks like. So I'm just going to post away. But he was the one actually initially who was like, I don't know, maybe you want to protect him a little bit, because you're right. Social media is crazy, Brantley. I mean, I think about you and I grew up kind of the same era. I mean, the good old days, talk about music, where we literally had to listen to the radio and wait for the song we were into to come on and hit play and record at the same time type of thing. Or having to go like physically buy a CD at like a music store. Those days are long gone. Things are so different. How do you think, how different do you think, especially the music industry is? I mean, had you been born like 30 or 40 years earlier, do you think it's been helpful for you to have really all these different platforms? Or in some ways, do you kind of think maybe it would have been cooler to be able to come out with like an album and actually physically people would have to go buy it?
I have to say, I'm a fan of big records, big albums, and all of my records up to this point have told a story. They've, I tell people, if you were to listen, every now and then somebody will be in a meet and greet or something, and somebody will ask, hey, when are you going to write a book? And it's like, well, I don't think there'd be much to tell you outside of what you already know, because I feel like my songs have kind of been my book. They've kind of been, the chapters of my life as they've happened. They've all told a story. But yeah, but these days things have changed so much. The rules have changed, which is fun, because we can be a little more outside the box now than before. But with that kind of comes a cost. And one of the strengths I felt like that we always brought to the table was that, we had those albums that told stories, that had a little more than a theme. It was almost autobiographical, and I've always had a hand in writing my songs. I've never released anything that I didn't write. And, not that there's anything wrong with people that don't, I mean,
you gotta put a caveat on everything, Brantley. See, this is the kind of world we live in. But you're right. Yeah. I think that's so cool that you're so involved with. I mean, it's personal, right? Look, all I've done so far, and there's more to come. I know there are a lot of folks out there on the left who will love to hear this about me. I did a cover of Tom Petty's "I Won't Back Down," and there is something very vulnerable about putting your voice out there, right? For people, I mean, because people are going to have opinions about it. People are going to love it. People are going to hate it. People are going to criticize you every possible way. But then to write your own music and to actually put a piece of yourself into it and put it out for like the world to consume, that is really, I mean, that's vulnerable. That's a piece of you that you're putting out there. That's a lot.
For sure. Well, your family is no stranger to any of that or any of the negative feedback. At some point in my life, I'll be completely honest with you. My management hates when I do this, but the honest to God truth is I don't spend time in the comments section. I don't really spend much time on social media, to be completely honest. I think when you're using social media outside of for work, in certain households, I think it wouldn't be necessarily a great thing for mine. So I'm kind of careful about how much exposure I have to that, just because I feel like there was something special about, the good old days, so to speak, where you didn't know everything that was going on in somebody's everyday life. Man, maybe people want to know when somebody's going through McDonald's to get a double cheeseburger, but it's not relevant to me. I think people that buy my music and support me would rather me be living a life worth writing about, and try to be a good husband and a good dad than, letting them know where I'm at 12:58 on Monday.
Yeah, by the way, 100% agree with you. Yeah, you don't need to know every single move, every person. Some people do that. And you know what? Shout out to them out there. I don't know how you fit all that in to literally document every single point of your day. I want to talk about your new tour, Off the Rails. Nobody move. We're going to take a quick break, and then Brantley's going to talk about the new tour that kicks off soon. All right. Hate to interrupt the show, but our country is facing so many problems these days under Joe Biden. The last thing any of us needs is more to worry about. Unfortunately, we now have to fear losing our freedom and privacy with the Democrats' new push for a digital dollar. That's right, that could allow the government to tell us what we can and cannot buy with our own hard-earned money. So that's why I'm encouraging every one of you tuning into the show right now to get The Secret War on Cash, an insightful report created by my friends at Swiss America. With this report, you're going to learn how to protect yourself from the threats facing our freedom and your hard-earned money. The report is available right now to my listeners free of charge. Just go to www.swissamerica.com/Trump to register immediately. All right, we're back with Brantley Gilbert. Brantley, look, we do live in a different time. We don't go buy albums. We don't consume music in the same way that we did like when you and I were growing up. But the one thing that we do still have are concerts. We still have tours out there, and I love that. I don't think there's a better way to really immerse yourself into an artist, into a band, than to go to their concert. And you have a new tour, Off the Rails. It kicks off in Connecticut on February 9th. Tell everybody about it. How do you feel out on the road touring? Obviously, we're talking about how important your family is. It must be a lot on you to be out on the road, being a husband, being a father. Are the kids and your wife joining you at all?
They do. They come out from time to time, especially if we're close to the house. It's a 2 or 3 day run. If we're a long ways out and we're out for a couple weeks or so, usually we don't try that with them much because, believe it or not, the bus can get a little tight. But yeah, to be completely honest, being away from home sucks, and it's something that I used to bitch about a lot until I went on a USO tour. The first one I ever went on, and there were guys and girls over there on 12-month tours, and we weren't even necessarily in active conflict. So it was like it made it a little difficult to fuss about not being home. But that is, I would say, the hardest part of my job. But we're also blessed with the opportunity that sometimes we can bring them out. And man, when that happens, it's so cool because it's our one opportunity that we do let the kids come out on stage and see everybody. And people will take pictures of them and this, that, and other. But I want to show them, that when I'm away from home, that I'm building something important. And that I'm doing something important and something to be proud of. I hope I'm doing it long enough that when they're old enough to understand that, hey, this isn't something that happens for everybody. This took a lot of hard work. It took
Right.
more than luck. It took being blessed, and it took, keeping our nose on the grindstone and our head down and our feet moving.
Yep.
So it was, there was adversity, and I think there's a lot of things that I'm going to have conversations with my kids a little earlier than than most parents. I think you guys could probably relate to that, because as soon as they're old enough to read or understand what somebody else is saying to them, there's some things I'm going to have to be held accountable for and take responsibility for that, and explain to my kids before a lot of parents will. And I've kind of come to terms with that. I have a checkered past, to say the least. But to be completely honest with you, there was a chapter in my life where I didn't think I was going to be anybody's dad or anybody's husband. I wanted to play music and ride motorcycles, and didn't plan on making it much past 30. But being a chapter in my life, I made some decisions and got some things out of my life that needed to go. I was an addict's addict. And,
well, so yeah, how did you, because that's like a 180-degree change then, for you to say, I didn't think I was going to make it to 30 or 39, and you have a beautiful family. What changed? Like, how did you get here?
Well, one, my wife came back in the picture. We had a long history, and that had a great deal to do with it. But as far as the, kind of getting the drinking thing out of my life, I remember it was my first #1 at country radio, and we had like a party for it, and they had a cake and stuff there. But I remember, for whatever reason, I went to the back of the bus by myself. It was, I was on my own bus for the first time and could actually go somewhere to a quiet place. And I forget who it was that said it, but there was a philosopher or something that said that, most of man's troubles come from his inability to sit in a quiet room alone. Wow. And that is definitely the case for me. But for whatever reason, that night I went to the back of the bus, and I just kind of came to terms with the fact that, hey man, we just did something that, people go broke trying to do. And it doesn't happen for everybody. It doesn't happen for most people that take a shot at it. And we weren't even necessarily celebrating. We were just doing the same thing we did the night before with a cake. And I realized my entire life had turned into a party, and I'd gotten so far away from the things that I was raised to value. I was raised to value being a good husband to somebody and a good daddy to somebody, and that just wasn't in the plan. And I felt like I owed it to myself and maybe whoever that could have possibly been, to kind of give myself one more shot at another road than the one I was on. And God saw fit to bless me with a path that landed me here. And, I get to be a husband to a beautiful, strong, smart, incredible woman, and share parenthood with her of two just the most amazing little things I've ever seen on this planet. Being a parent is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And to think that I almost cheated myself out of that is crazy. And I know for a fact, for me, just to be transparent, there's no way I could have left that in my life and been the husband or the dad I try to be,
wow,
on a daily basis. So,
well, having
having
the insight that you have now to have, come as far as you have, and to have that in your past and be able to look back and say, like, look what I overcame. That's huge. Some people never get there. Some people never get that chance. And I love how much you talk about your wife, because beside every great man is a great woman. Just ask Eric Trump. I'll get him on the phone in a second. He'll tell you. No, I'm just kidding. He knows. He already knows.
I was about to say, I'm sure he already knows.
He knows. And if he doesn't know, Brantley, I'll tell him. But no, it's really what I've learned, though, is, look, as you kind of alluded to, no one knows better than those of us in my family what it's like to have scrutiny on you, what it's like for people to constantly attack you. And believe me, talk about the comment section. I don't go near a comment section. And like once in a blue moon, I'll let myself stray in there and I'm like, shouldn't have come here, shouldn't have done this, mistake. But it's because Eric and I have such a great relationship, and because we support one another in the ways that we do, and because we know what's important. people who say crazy stuff to you on social media or in a comment section on an article about you are not the people who ultimately matter. It's your spouse, it's your kids, it's your parents. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's the people who know you and love you and really know you. And without one another, without the two of us together, it would have been a lot harder for either of us individually to have to go through all the things that we have. And I'm sure it's the same for you and your wife. And I love it because I feel like there's been this push in the past, like, decade or two to say, like, oh, you don't need to get married. You don't need to have kids. And if you had talked to me, honestly, Brantley, 20 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get married. I don't know if I'll ever have kids. And thank God I did. It is the greatest thing I've ever done. As you say, I being a parent is the coolest thing you'll ever experience. And before I had kids, I would have been horrified to hear myself say that. I would have been like, oh, there's so many other cool things. No, it's the best. It's the greatest. It's what we're put on this planet to do. So I love how much you've embraced it as a husband, as a father. There's no important job than being mom or dad.
No, and it, I'll be completely honest. Obviously, we all learn every day, right? I'm still trying to figure some of it out. I'll be completely honest. Being on the road and playing music for 20 years.
I'm still trying to figure all of it out, to be totally honest. Yeah, please.
I feel like sometimes when I'm at home, I'm not on the road doing what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes when I'm on the road, all the time when I'm on the road, I feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So still trying to figure home out. But, outside of that, like I said, you were talking about you and Eric's relationship and now you guys have such a healthy relationship. And my wife and I are constantly working on that. She actually got me back into church, which was kind of wild. Something I didn't see coming.
Love it.
But we found a church in our hometown. It's called Jefferson Church. And the pastor there, I played football against him, and he's younger than me. I thought I was going to hate it. But I went and, I remembered all the reasons that my parents had us in church. And I thought it was important that my wife and I would say my wife kind of led me in this direction. She thought it was important. And I agreed with her that, for the kids to see us going to church together was an important thing.
Right.
We want to show them to the best of our ability, kind of what you're supposed to do or what we hope you do. And I do think, I heard a guy say one time, he said that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as parents and we give ourselves too much credit for, how much we can affect the future of our children, because at the end of the day, they are who they are and they're going to make the choices they're going to make. But, I do feel like if we give them the right foundation, and I feel like that's part of it, especially in a world where, man, I feel like, that frame of mind, even, being a Christian to an extent, I feel like, you kind of come under attack. But, you were talking about, scrutiny and this, that, and other, and I think it's so important. And I see the guys and the people that you all surround yourself with, and I'm impressed by that. And I take notes from that. I've heard it said that, we're like the product of the 5 closest people around us. Right? Mm-hmm. I have so many people around me that I can't single it out to 5. But I try to make sure that those closest 10, those closest 15, those closest 20 are not just strong individuals that have a deeply rooted foundation and moral compass, but also I feel like we live in a time where one of my pet peeves about our society right now is I feel like we live in a world where nobody gets punched in the face anymore. I learned more lessons in my life being hit in the mouth than I did anything. And I feel like, it's honestly something, one of the best qualities I think you can find in a friend. To me, the most valuable qualities a friend can have is having the guts to hold you accountable, especially when you are somebody that has a platform.
Yes.
For a friend to be able to come to you and say, hey man, I don't care how much money you make or what your job is or how many people listen to your songs, you're effing up, dude. I've got a buddy that's on this trip with me, and you hear your whole life that the best friends you can have are the ones that stick with you through thick and thin. And I found out through my addiction that wasn't necessarily the case. I'll never forget. He came to me at one point and he said, "Man," and this was the big wake up call in my life. He came to me and said, "Man, I love you. My kids are your god kids." He said, "But the dude you are right now and the decisions you're making, I feel like are dangerous, and honestly, like it makes me nervous to have you around the kids."
Wow.
And that was the eye opening moment for me, because it was like, what am I doing, with my life
Right.
to where my, the parent and my best friend in the world and the parent of my god kids thinks that, I'm not a safe situation for them.
Wow.
So I feel like for him, he's one of the strongest, most courageous dudes I know, because I was not in a chapter of my life where I was easy to talk to about anything. I don't think. But for him to go out on a limb like that and hold me accountable like that, those are the people that I value in my life. The people that tell me the truth even when it hurts.
That's right.
And the people that skip all the feel good stuff and just get to the root of it. That's one thing I like about your father-in-law. He doesn't beat around the bush a lot. He just kinda gets to the point.
You never have to wonder what he's thinking, Brantley. There's no beating around the bush with Donald Trump. That's the truth. But you know what? It's the same thing for him. He needs people around him who are very honest with him, who really are not saying the things that they think he wants to hear, but they say the things to him that he needs to hear. Everybody, Donald Trump, Brantley Gilbert, whoever you are out there, we all need those people in our lives to hold us accountable, to make sure that they're telling us the truth, and that, there's nothing more important than having people around you like that. I agree. And you are kind of the greater sum of all the people with whom you associate, for sure. And so I love that you have good, solid people around you. I'm lucky that I have good, solid people around me. For people out there who want to find out more about what you got going on, if there's new music coming out, I know, like you're saying, you're not always on social media, but I've seen you done some. Where can people find out more about all of it?
Well, any of our social, Eric, can you help me out with that?
Yeah, anything that's on socials.
Anything that's on socials.
Yeah,
So,
all that music will be available online. All DSPs.
What do we have? Anything new?
We're working on some new. We're working on a new album right now.
Okay, I love it. More to come.
So we're really excited about that. We're also teaming up with Jelly Roll on an album this year.
Okay.
At some point. So we're looking very much forward to that. There's some things, some exciting things in the windshield for us, and
I love it.
The rear view's the rear view. We leave that stuff back there. We learn lessons.
We're going forward this year, Brantley. I got to be honest with you, on a whole host of fronts. We're forward facing. We're going ahead, and I love that you're doing it too. Before we let you go, I told somebody I was interviewing you, and I was like, what should I ask him? How many tattoos do you currently have? Do you keep count?
That's what I was going to ask you. Molded into one at this point, honestly. My wife would tell you way too many, but I actually have a song on the new album coming out. It's actually the focus track and probably the title track of the album. And the song's called Tattoos. And I'm really excited about it because most of the tattoo songs that I've heard kind of suck. We're
going to have a new one.
Yeah, we're going to have a new one from a tattoo guy,
There you go.
Because I feel like everybody's always approached it from the, my tattoos are cool angle. I hope my tattoos are cool, but, it's more so about what they mean. Real tattoo people, will tell you they're there for reminders, and they're there for, to remind yourself. To me, I have tattoos that remind me to hold myself accountable. To remind me I can look at my arm on a daily basis and, see the flames and the skulls. And flames and skulls look cool, but the honest to God truth is, the story behind that is that, this was about a chapter of my life that I put, not just myself and my family and my business, through everybody that I was associated with through hell. And as you work your way up my arm, I've got some angels. But my angels are pretty cool. They do have AK-47s. But it's kind of the battle.
My husband's going to end up with a tattoo like that, Brantley. I'll just be honest now that you said that. Don't give him ideas.
My wife hates that one. My wife thinks that I'm like the opposite of most most tattoo people you meet, you can ask them if they have any tattoos they regret, and they'll tell you yes. I don't know that I can say that. I was that guy that I had all these ideas for tattoos, but I couldn't afford them. And I finally got to a point in my life where I could afford them, and I had the time to get them. So I have tattoos on me that, like, the 21-year-old me wanted and couldn't afford it at the time.
Now you got them.
Yeah,
Wow.
so the 31-year-old version got them. My wife was like, just no, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, that song approaches the tattoo thing from a different angle, and it says, yeah, my body is a temple, but my temple is a canvas. And you know, it's just it's a pretty cool song. The entire album is something I'm extremely excited about. It's we've always been outside of the box, you know, stranger to that. And you know, this album does nothing different. But I do have to tell you before I let you go, the other night when we were over at Bob's house, we were over at Kid Rock's house, and
everyone who knows Kid Rock calls him Bob. I know so many people who are friends with Kid Rock. It's just casual drop Bob, and I'm like, oh, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So he was on the phone with your father-in-law, and Gary LaVox, who's also a dear friend of mine, was on the phone with you guys. And been just hearing you guys talking back and forth. Like I said, it was kind of a surreal thing, but it was really special to me because, you know, when you see you guys out, it's, you know, it's, you guys keep it professional and you keep it tight knit, but to hear you guys away from that atmosphere, kind of just joking around and being normal people
we're real people too, right? You know.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool, and it was really cool to see the family side of you guys, and you know, the banter back and forth, and you could just tell there's a lot of love there and a lot of support there, and you know, a lot of accountability. So, you know, there's a reason you're a strong family. There's a reason you're a strong soul, and you're doing a show like this. And I truly do appreciate you having me on here and giving me an opportunity to tell some of my story and just hang out for a bit.
Yeah, well, it's been a great time. Thank you for joining us. You're awesome. Keep doing what you do. We'll be ready for the new music when it comes out, and we'll be listening. We'll be watching. Brantley Gilbert, thank you for being with us on The Right View very much. And to everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Laura Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Laura Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. My name is Laura Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America.